Welcome back to another episode of the Giant Topic Podcast. I am your host, Christian Cruz. And before we dive into this Game 2 preview, I just want to say hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment as well. Those three things alone will greatly help out our channel. We're trying to grow this channel and we cannot do that without you guys. So hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, and let's dive into this Game 2 preview. Now, the New York Giants are on the road headed to Arlington, Texas to face the Dallas Cowboys. And despite both teams being 0-1, the energy from both teams are vastly different. Now, as a Giants fan that currently lives in the Dallas Fort Worth area, I can confidently tell you that the energy is much different here than what it is from what we're seeing with Giants Twitter or just from the Giants fan base in general all around. Now, despite the Dallas Cowboys being 0-1, Cowboys fans are feeling very confident coming off of that loss to the Philadelphia Eagles because Cowboys fans, going into this game, week one, the question was how is this team going to look under Brian Schottenheimer? How is this team going to look with Dak Prescott coming off of an injury? How is this defense going to look with Micah Parsons not being in the lineup and being coached by Matt Eberflus? There were a lot of questions surrounding the Dallas Cowboys, and ultimately, despite the loss, they looked like a good team. They looked like a very good team. Offensively, they had some drops here and there that were really costly by CeeDee Lamb that ultimately probably could have won them the game. But they looked really good, in my opinion. The run game looked very solid. Dak Prescott looked precise. He looked confident in the pocket. He threw with great anticipation in that game. Dak Prescott looked like Dak Prescott. Can't really complain there. Defensively, they were able to put pressure on Jalen Hurts. I thought they did pretty decent in the run game as well. A lot of people were questioning how they were going to look without Micah Parsons, and you insert Kenny Clark. And honestly, I thought they looked pretty good. I had my questions about their defense, but ultimately they showed up. Now they're gonna have a different game plan for Russell Wilson compared to Jalen Hurts, where you have a quarterback that's a little bit more mobile, and on the offensive side of the ball for the Dallas Cowboys, they're going to have to prepare for Dexter Lawrence. Now, going into that game week one, their game plan was to really stop Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is a disruptor of his own. And when you don't have Jalen Carter on the field, you can play your offense a lot differently than what you could do with Jalen Carter is on the field. Now, the Dallas Cowboys are going to be facing the New York Giants team that has Dexter Lawrence, the best defensive tackle in the entire NFL. You have Abdul Carter, third pick overall, who looks very promising. Brian Burns, one of the better edge rushers in this league. Kayvon Thibodeau, a promising edge rusher. There's players on this defensive line that the Dallas Cowboys for this matter, are going to have to take into consideration that can wreck their offense if they don't do what they need to do to game plan them. Now, Dexter Lawrence, we already know Dexter Lawrence is going to command double teams. We already know that Brian Burns, whether that's over their left tackle, over their right tackle, doesn't really matter. He'll line up wherever he has to. And Abdul Carter, he's someone that the Dallas Cowboys are going to circle as well because the New York Giants, they're going to have to use Abdul Carter in a multitude of different ways. When you have Micah McFadden step out of the lineup, and you have a guy in Abdul Carter who can play linebacker, who can also get to the quarterback as well. I absolutely do believe that we will see Abdul Carter playing both linebacker and edge rusher as well. I would not be shocked if we saw a good mix of both. Shane Bowen spoke about that as well. We know that prior to him switching to edge, he did play linebacker in college as well, and he looked good. He looked good. If you guys go back and you watch the tape, he looked very solid at linebacker. And ultimately, it's next man up. They're pretty high on Darius Muasau. Um, I have not been very high on Darius Muasau. I did not really change my expectations on Darius Muasau after week one. You saw that once Micah McFadden exited the lineup, Jaden Daniels instantly linked up with Zach Ertz, scored on Darius Muasau. And after that, Darius Muasau just kind of looked lost on the field. Same with Bobby Okereke. And that cannot happen this week. It can't. This defense granted, I thought had a solid performance, which against the Washington Commanders. Which, when you take into consideration that Jaden Daniels is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, especially when it comes to getting the ball out quickly, the New York Giants were still able to have some success against the Washington Commanders, despite their offense not being able to score points. And that cannot happen this week. The New York Giants cannot be in a situation where their defense is keeping them in the game and offensively they're not scoring points. You're going into a game where the Dallas Cowboys don't have Micah Parsons, they don't have Deron Bland. There's absolutely no excuse for the New York Giants not to put points on the board. I'm looking at Malik Neighbors. I'm looking at Darius Slayton, who a lot of people were getting on Russell Wilson in this offensive line. Granted, it was absolutely justified, but Darius Slayton was a non factor last week. An absolute non factor last week. That man ran straight cardio. Straight cardio. I mean, outside of Malik Neighbors, the best wide receiver on the field last week was Wan'Dale Robinson. And you cannot have that. This cannot be a game where Darius Slayton is not involved. If that is the case, what did you extend him for? Did you pay him all of that money to essentially just be a decoy? I mean, what was the point? Now, there have been murmurs and some reports that if Darius Slayton is not good to go, Bo Collins will get the nod. Now, in my opinion, I think that says a lot about Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt has been on the thinnest of ice. We all know that to be true. He's been on the thinnest of ice, considering what we just saw in the preseason. Despite him having that touchdown, he looked very rough in the preseason. You heard Russ, early in the offseason talking about Jalen Hyatt and him thinking that he could be one of the best in the league. And we have yet to see that. We have not seen Jalen Hyatt capitalize on his opportunities on the field. And ultimately, I mean, they show week in and week out that they just do not believe in Jalen Hyatt. And I honestly refuse to believe that they believe in Jalen Hyatt until they prove to me that they do. Until then, I'm not sold. And in my honest opinion, I mean, the wide receiver room, I said this before, especially on our X account, which again, you can follow us under the Giant Topic. I said this before that the wide receiver room, even them extending Darius Slayton, leaves a lot to be desired. I don't have a lot of faith in Jalen Hyatt. You're asking a lot out of a UDFA and Bo Collins. Wan'Dale Robinson's production-wise is, extremely replaceable and really doesn't add that much value to this offense. I mean, this offense is really reliant on Malik Neighbors, and I think we're going to see that this week too. I think we're going to see Malik Neighbors get a lot of targets. I think we're going to see a more productive offense than what we saw against the Washington Commanders. Now, granted, it's definitely a lot of hopeism, if you will, considering the fact that the Giants have not shown that they can be explosive in an actual game when it counts. Now, again, it's only week 2. I said this in my last video. I wasn't going to overreact to week 1. It's only 1 week. But granted, Russell Wilson did not have a good game last week. He did not look good at all. Some of the sacks that we had, you can honestly look back and say to yourself, Russell Wilson held on to the ball too long here. He ran into a sack there. He has to be able to trust what he sees on the field. And the crazy thing is that he can't even see the middle of the field. He can't. So, this is going to be a Dallas Cowboys team where I think that they are going to blitz this offensive line a lot. I think we're going to see a lot of stunts. I think they're going to really test this offensive line. We know how this Dallas Cowboy team plays the New York Giants every time. We know this. Even with them having a different quarterback in the lineup, this Dallas Cowboys team is going into this game treating it as a must-win. And so should the New York Giants. The New York Giants cannot afford to drop to 0-2. Neither can the Dallas Cowboys. But in my honest opinion, I do think that the New York Giants have a good shot of competing in this game and sneaking out with a W. Now, there's going to be some things that factor into that. Number one, it's going to factor in is scoring points. That's so much easier said than done. But when I look at other teams throughout the league who are deemed bad teams, they still have a functioning offense. Why is it that the New York Giants can't have that? Why is it that the New York Giants have to look like they play a different brand of football compared to the 31 other teams in the NFL? Why is it that, regardless of who is under center, this team looks like they're allergic to scoring points? There's absolutely no reason why you're on the 1 yard line. And when you have a bruiser like Cam Scatterbo, or you have a guy like Tyrone Tracy, who, he's a little bit of a bruiser himself, give your guys the ball. Stop trying to be cute, trying to do a nice little trick play to get Marcus Bowe a touchdown. Let's just pound the ball with Cam Scatterbo or Tyrell Tracy at the 1 yard line, or run Russell Wilson on a QB sneak, considering that he led the New York Giants in rushing this past week with over 40 rushing yards. Run him on the 1 yard line. Let's stop trying to be cute. Let's score some points. Jobs are on the line here. And if Russell Wilson can come in and win this game against the Dallas Cowboys, that's easily going to buy him another 3 weeks. At minimum, that's going to buy him another 3 weeks because this game is that important. Dak Prescott has a near perfect record, damn near perfect record against the New York Giants. He hasn't lost to the New York Giants since his rookie season. I mean, when you look at the statistics, I believe he has over 30 touchdowns and just 6 interceptions. Just insane what he's been able to do against the Giants year in and year out. And that has to change. When you have a defense that has Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter, Kayvon, Brian Burns, you should be able to get to the quarterback. You should be able to get to Dak Prescott, who's not a Jalen Carter, who you don't necessarily have to worry about him being that mobile. Granted, Dak can use his legs. He can pick up a couple yards when he needs to. We've seen that before. But he's not Jaden Daniels. He's not going to have you really worrying about, leaving the pocket that much compared to Jaden Daniels, who could take off at any given moment. So we should see a better game from this defense. We should be able to see Abdul Carter get his first sack. We should be able to see Dexter Lawrence wreak havoc on the inside. I mean, this should be a better performance by the New York Giants, and it absolutely has to be. We need to see a better game from this offensive line. Andrew Thomas, I love the guy. When he's in the lineup, this offensive line plays good. But this offensive line shouldn't look the way that it does just because one player is out of the offensive line lineup. Why is it that when Andrew Thomas is in the lineup, they look functioning, and then when he's not out of the when he's out of the lineup, it's like everyone forgets how to pass block. Everyone forgets how to run block as well. It's insane to me. It's honestly very frustrating to watch as a Giants fan. And if you're a Giants fan, you know what I'm talking about. So for me, score points, which is it's easier said than done, but it's the truth. Score points. Let's stop kicking field goals. You're going to need to get to Dak Prescott. You're going to have to make him uncomfortable all game. If you're going to give him time in the pocket, he's going to rip you apart. He is deadly accurate. He's very precise, especially when it comes to the play action pass, especially in shotgun. I mean, you give Dak Prescott time, he is going to tear your defense apart. So the Giants, who, they're going to have their hands full. You have CeeDee Lamb, you have George Pickens, you have Ferguson, you have some players on that offensive side of the ball for the Dallas Cowboys that if your defensive line cannot get to Dak, Dak will make you pay for it. Especially with CeeDee Lamb, who is looking to have a bounce back game against the New York Giants after having 4 crucial drops against the Philadelphia Eagles. Same with George Pickens. We saw moments here and there last week with Dak Prescott trying to link with George Pickens downfield. I'm looking at Deonte Banks. You got to turn your head around. You have to turn your head around. I can see it now where the defense gets home. Dak Prescott gets the ball out quick. George Pickens is tracking the ball. Deonte Banks doesn't turn his head around. PI. And it be a back-breaking play for the New York Giants. I can see it already, and I'm knocking on wood. I can see it. This defense has to get home against this Dallas Cowboys offensive line. And listen, their offensive line is good. It leaves some questions, but it's good. Now, defensively, again, no Micah Parsons, no CeeDee Lamb. There is no reason why this football team cannot score touchdowns against this Dallas Cowboys defense. And if we leave this game and they look similar to what we saw against the Washington Commanders, the rumblings for Jackson Dart to start are only going to get louder. The hot seat is only going to get hotter for Brian Dable. Let's avoid all of that with the W. Should be easy, right? I mean, there's so many things going into this game where I say to myself, well, what if the New York Giants just figure it out? How about that? Did you ever think about that? What if they just figure it out? What if they just figure it out? You know? But unfortunately, that's not the way it works when you're a New York Giants fan. Everything has to be complicated. If you know, you know. But again, this is a must win for the New York Giants. I'm holding hope that they could secure a W. And as hard as it is for me to do this, I'm going to do this. And I might look crazy by the time we record our post game video. I'm going to select the New York Giants to pull off the upset here. I know. Throw the tomatoes, throw the tomatoes. It's fine. I have a good feeling about this game. Something tells me that we're just going to see a better performance from this offense, and I think this defense is going to be able to give Dak Prescott a very uncomfortable afternoon. I think that they're going to be able to get to Dak Prescott. I think we're going to see quite a few sacks from this defensive line. I would not be shocked if we saw two from Abdul Carter. And again, offensively, I'm looking at Malik Neighbors. I'm looking at Darius Slayton. I think we might see a Cam Scatterbo touchdown this week. Who knows? I think if again, if this offense could just score points, why cannot? Why can't they beat the Dallas Cowboys? Why can't they? Why can't they? I mean, you're this far into your quote unquote rebuild, you should be able to compete with your division rivals. Now, granted, the Philadelphia Eagles, they're in a tier of their own. I understand that completely. But despite the fact that the New York Giants weren't able to score points last week, they were still in that game against the Washington Commanders. Now, I'm going to put some blame on the Commanders as well. They didn't have a good performance either. But that's neither here nor there. The Giants were still in that game despite them laying an egg on offense. So, if this offense can look competent this week, I'm not asking for nothing crazy, but I'm just asking to look competent, respectable, like an NFL offense. If you can look like an NFL offense and your defense can replicate what we saw last week and maybe even take a step forward, hopefully see some Darius Alexander in there who was a healthy scratch last week, why can't they win this game? Why can't they compete with the Dallas Cowboys? You tell me. You tell me. So, again, I think it's going to be a good game. It's a must win game for the New York Giants. And, they're going to have a lot of questions going into this game. How's the offense going to look? How is this offensive line going to look with James Hudson again in the lineup? Do they make any adjustments? I don't think that they will, but we'll see. And again, I really do think that if the Giants can seal a win here, this will do a lot for this Giants team, especially considering that you host the Kansas City Chiefs next week at home. So we'll definitely see. But let us know your thoughts below. How are you guys feeling about this matchup? How are you guys feeling about the New York Giants going into Arlington to face the Dallas Cowboys in an NFC East showdown with the possibility to drop to 0-2? Not feeling too good. So let us know your thoughts below. Would love to hear it. And again, yeah, we'll see you guys in the post game video. But until then, be easy. Thank you.